On this AVNation special, we take a look at the AtlasIED and Fyne collaboration coming out of InfoComm 2023, where they're going and what it means to have a collaboration like this in the commercial space. All that and more next on this AVNation special.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
It's Tim Albright with AVNation with an AVNation special, taking a look at the AtlasIED and Fyne collaboration announced this year at InfoComm, and with me to talk about that very thing, first and foremost, a gentleman I've known for a number of years, Matt Czyzewski from AtlasIED. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A couple gentlemen I've gotten to know since they joined Atlas. First is Ivan Schwartz. Ivan, welcome, sir. And lastly is Graham Hendry. Graham, welcome, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Matt, I'm going to start with you. Not for nothing, but we're going to talk some specifics here in a second, and the strategy behind Atlas and Fyne coming together. But first, give folks an overarching, Atlas has made speakers by themselves for years, right? This is not a new thing. But what makes this collaboration, what makes this partnership different than other Atlas speakers?
Yeah, that's a great question, or a good place to start. Well, what's different is certainly AtlasIED. We've been making speakers a long time. We could definitely do something different or unique ourselves. But what we found when we wanted to look at bringing something technically different to the commercial market, and our connections with some of the people at Fyne, we started talking to them, and it just made sense to do a collaboration. We call it a technology partnership and collaboration, because we not only invested in the company, but we're also collaborating with them on developing, designing commercial ceiling speakers and other speakers. So we looked at the uniqueness there and just said that seems right. So why don't we just find a way to work together? And it's been great working with them and actually finally getting a product out that we could show at InfoComm and so on. I think the proof, as they always say, is in the pudding, and certainly in our demo room we showed what that collaboration did.
Yeah, that was one of the things. If you didn't get a chance to go to InfoComm, or you didn't get a chance to stop by the Atlas demo room, first and foremost, it was generally pretty packed throughout that week. Ivan, I want to bring you in on this. When you were talking to customers that week, right? What was the feedback you were getting as they were experiencing this specific line of speakers for the first time?
Just that they're really excited that AtlasIED was getting into a higher end product, that it sounded great. They're really excited about the features of it and such. But it's kind of that thing that's been missing for a while. We've had the good and the better speakers, but not the best. And now we've got this super wide range of especially commercial and ceiling product.
Graham, from an engineering and a technical standpoint, Matt mentioned a technology partnership. Certainly, there's the old adage of too many cooks, right? And you can call it and say that, or too many people trying to put their hands into stuff. Talk about the kind of the tightrope you guys had to walk in this partnership, and the ultimate the ultimate outcome, which is a new premium line that gives Atlas, their customers, and eventually the users of this technology a better overall speaker and a better overall experience.
Well, none of the guys sitting here are spring chickens, so we've actually got we've got quite a heritage in that space, and we definitely Fyne for all the power rests and what have you, they weren't moving into the commercial space themselves. So that's where the collaboration came from. The question was, do you intend to go to that space because you've got a transducer technology that's perfect for the space, and they didn't want to do that. So that's where the collaboration came from. So we wanted to enter the market with this collaboration with a class leading performer. From the offset, have something that's sort of ahead of the curve. It's the whole point of the product itself is to deliver wide directivity, a wide sweet spot, sound great. We invested a lot in equipment, clipple analyzers, console, multiphysics, various things. We didn't just take the Fyne driver itself. We actually made a number of changes for the commercial space. Basically, not everyone sits on axis with a ceiling speaker. 90% of the audience is off axis. So we want it to be the same all over, and that's what's quite unique about it.
Tim, you mentioned, the old adage, too many cooks in the kitchen spoil the broth. Well, in this case, I mean, there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but they're all, as Graham pointed out, very seasoned, pun intended. And that it really made a difference in terms of how quickly and how precisely we were able to move forward with those changes Graham talked about, of making changes for the commercial space. And what I like to say is that because of that collaboration, this product has AtlasIED DNA and it has Fyne DNA all in the same product. And the teams worked really well together. And it's demonstratable by the output of the group in terms of the product.
Matt, go down that road just for 1 second, if you would, please. The AtlasIED DNA and the Fyne DNA. And I'm not going to ask you to, from the technical specs or to give me any secrets. But when folks experience this and they look at this and engineers start speccing this and putting this into designs and ultimately, somebody walks into a space, what does the Atlas DNA mean to you? What part of this is the Atlas DNA?
Well, a couple things. One is the ease of install. So the dogleg mount that we use and have improved on, we use a dogleg mount since our Series 3, our FAP Series 3, but we've improved on that and have incorporated that into the Atlas Fyne speaker with some tweaks. So there's the ease of install. And then, Graham was already touching on it in terms of, hey, we need to make this transducer in a way that we have better off-axis response. Because in the residential market, you're not as concerned about that because generally you're sitting in the sweet spot or darn near the sweet spot because that's what you do. That's what you want to set up at home. But as Graham pointed out, most installations, no one's sitting in the sweet spot. So how do you get coverage across there? And that's where, our work came involved in our knowledge of the commercial space and in the tweaks we needed to do to get there. And then it was a matter of, okay, folks, let's make it happen.
If you're sitting in the sweet spot of a commercial install, it's by accident.
That's right. Yeah, you got lucky.
The point source is probably an overused word term nowadays. If it's not linear, it's point source. And that's not quite true because you have display sources on a product. You have, it'd be ideal to have one driver covering all the frequency range, but that's not physically possible. So if we can have those drivers aligned acoustically and in time, then we're getting as close to how sound emanates in nature. It's got to sound natural. It's got to measure consistently, but it's true point source. That's the point.
All right. Ivan, you've been involved. All three of you have been involved in the industry for a long time. But speakers specifically, Ivan, they have over the years somewhat become commoditized in certain spaces, right? This company now does speakers. Oh, that company now does speakers, and you can get everything under one roof. How do you take a segment like the speaker and make it exciting and get, again, not for nothing, but the end users are really the ones who drive this purchase. I mean, yes, the integrator certainly has a hand in recommending based on the experience at InfoComm and other places, but the ultimate decision maker are the people writing the checks. So whether that is corporate or it's higher education or wherever, how do you get them excited about something that, yes, they experience? Typically, they don't see it in ceiling mounted applications. So certainly cabinets they do. But how do you get them excited in a category that has become commoditized?
Well, it's kind of a running joke at this point, but I personally am really excited about ceiling speakers, and I have a lot of passion for it.
Boring is sexy.
Boring is sexy.
It's an interesting market because you would think this would be easy, especially with distributed systems. You'd think that the ability to cover an area very evenly with sound would be easy, but we every day experience a lot of discontinuity in different distributed systems. You walk through your average retail environment, you walk in and out of high frequency coverage. You walk in an airport, you can hear some messages, some you can't. And with products like the IsoFlare design, you're able to have really even coverage because each device is very predictable what it does off axis. And so it really is the holy grail of distributed system design, where you can properly lay out a system and have just extremely even coverage and not notice when you go from the coverage of one speaker to another. And so once you kind of demo this and explain this, a lot of people have this light bulb go off, and it's like, oh yeah, in using these products in the past, we've just kind of compromised. Now we can actually design really high quality distributed systems with extremely even coverage and high intelligibility, which is obviously very important in most cases.
Yeah, it is. And to pull on something that we're in another area that Atlas is also involved in, and you mentioned it there, Ivan, and that is, the airports and just mass transportation areas as well. And something Graham said there was, boring is sexy. It's also where it's an unseen part, right, of an install. However, when it's bad, we as the consumers of that technology know it's bad. We just sometimes we don't know what it is, right? Yeah. So and any of you can answer this, but I'll have Ivan start. How do you convince the customer when the building itself is still a line drawing, right? When it's still in architecture paper, right? When this is still theoretical. However, when you show them, I don't know if it's an ease drawing, right? That shows them the coverage area, but how do we get them to not just conceptualize this, but really experience this before we ever pour concrete? Because sometimes that's when the sales is done.
The demo.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, Ivan's answering this.
Yeah.
Well, as you pointed out, it could be in the ease. You can show people visually, but as Graham said, really the demo tends to be what does it for people, because you can hear the sound quality of a single speaker. You can walk off axis and hear the high frequency coverage of it, and then start to understand what that can do, not only in a large distributed system, but also what that can do in terms of control of the sound in very poor acoustic situations, in challenging architecture, which we're seeing more and more of these days. And the ability to predict and control where the sound is going is crucial for high intelligibility.
Airports are a good example. If you actually put a line item in the BOQ, and it would be called the cost of miscommunication as a line item, it'd be pretty high. And that's, it's difficult to express the mechanics of what constitutes good or bad sound But everyone appreciates that it has a positive effect as well. If it's in leisure, it's more critical in communication. But, subconsciously, it makes a huge difference. If it's in the pursuit of leisure, people are more relaxed with good sound. They don't know why. At the end of the day, they'll tend to linger. In retail or in leisure, that relates to people staying longer, spending more money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I guess, they are quantifiable. I was going to say it's not quantifiable, but it is. There has been studies done.
But I like what you said there about miscommunication being a line item, right? Now, we can all have, smart people in math, quantify that in some way, shape, or form. But again, there are some critical systems where that's not just a line item, it's a necessity, right? You have to be able to communicate emergency notifications and things of that nature. Graham, I know this, I'm not going to say well, and certainly not as well as the three of you, but talk for a second about that on-axis versus off-axis situation, and because you keep using the term, and I want you to define it for folks. If they're not familiar with what that means, what does on-axis versus off-axis mean to you guys and to just engineers in general, and why it's critical that the sound intelligibility is still there off-axis?
If you have sources aligned both in the horizontal and vertical axis, we see. Just take a ceiling speaker as a for instance. Some have an HF off to one side. Some are basically tweeters on a stick. They're coaxes. They're called coaxes, but there are discontinuities in terms of it, the ability to act as a single point source, if you like. So as you move, invariably, as you move off axis, you're going to get changes in response. You're going to get changes in level. You're going to get changes in level at different frequencies. It's about keeping that as constant as possible and making it as predictable as possible at the same time. What you hear on axis most of the time isn't quite the same as what you hear off axis. Sometimes it changes in the vertical plane. Sometimes it changes in the horizontal plane. So constant directivity is another good term, and that its character doesn't change as you move off axis as well. You will get roll off at the HF, but if you maintain that same shape of frequency response, which is hard to do, and a lot of them don't do it, basically. It's these small things that add up to.
All right. I'm going to ask each of you this, and Matt, I'm going to start with you. What are you most excited about this new line and this partnership?
Well, just working with the Fyne folks, if I can say it that way, is absolutely a pleasure, as always. And to be working closely with another group that is aligned with us in terms of quality, bringing out good products, wanting to be successful in the market, and all those kinds of things. So having that alignment and working with them on top of being able to bring a premium speaker to the market is, it's like a win-win.
All right. Ivan, same question. What are you most excited about?
Just the current product range and the future. I mean, we've got this great technology partnership that can lead to a lot of new products, not just the range that was introduced. And I'm really excited to be working with people who are thinking about new and better ways to do things.
All right. Graham, what are you most excited about this new product line?
Well, from a personal point of view, a very selfish point of view, I did work with all the guys at Fyne in the past. Ivan and I worked together at previous places, so it's almost like getting the band back together as well. And we think we can take what we had in the past and we can refine it. To pardon the pun, a little more. And one of the great things is, personally, I've worked with loudspeaker companies, and all we've done is loudspeakers. The real strength that Atlas has is not just it's the full signal chain, it's the full ecosystem. We have DSP platforms where we've got, big and noise masking. There's lots of places where we can be I don't like to say one-stop shop, because that takes away the creativity of a lot of people like the consultant, etc. But it's nice to have the full signal chain basically as well, so it can all be tailored for an effective solution.
All right. Matt, one last question. Atlas has done a number of regional events, as well as, obviously you guys were at InfoComm. You'll be at a number of events over the next year or so. Where can people get a demo if they aren't hanging out at InfoComm this past year?
As we get ready to roll out the product, because this is going to be shipping, tail end of Q4, you will see announcements about where we're going to roll out product and regional demos. And the next big trade show that we'll be at with the product will be, of course, at ISE in Barcelona in early February. So check our website. Open those marketing emails that you get every week, and you'll get updated on when and where we are.
All right, very good. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much, Matt. You mentioned it there. Where can people find out more about you and AtlasIED?
You can go to AtlasIED.com, check out all of the various products, and you can always contact me at Czyzewski at AtlasIED.com.
All right. Mr. Schwartz, how can people connect with you?
Well, Ivan.Schwartz at AtlasIED.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn. There aren't too many Ivan Schwartzes, so I'm pretty easy to find.
All right. Very good. And Graham, how can people connect with you?
Oh, I spend a lot of time in LinkedIn. And obviously, Graham.Hendry at AtlasIED.com.
All right, very good. Thank you guys so much. We will look for those regional shows, as well as obviously ISE in 2024. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Follow this the development here of this program, as well as other interviews from InfoComm 2023. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.